Hi everybody, so following on from our last video which was all about resilience, today we're going to be talking about protective factors for mental illness. So again, similar to the last one, we're looking at ways to promote healthy minds, remembering that these are things that you can learn and develop, which is great. And then today we're following on from resilience and then also covering protective factors for mental health. So this is what we talked about in the last video. We talked all about resilience, what it was, the different kinds of resilience. So if you need to refresh your memory of that, please return to that video. And this is how we define a protective factor. A protective factor, it can be environmental, so it can be outside of your control of things that are around you in your environment, or it can be a personal resource that help you cope better in the face of stress. Now, they actually give you resilience. So they make you more resilient in the face of adversity, they help moderate the impact that stress can have on you, and they improve your general well-being, whether it's social or emotional. So all of these things together, they then therefore reduce the likelihood of you getting a mental disorder or developing a mental disorder. So they can be things like having an affectionate and really valuing family environment, you yourself having an easy temperament, again, remembering from our personality studies what temperament is. Having a non-violent and cohesive school environment is also really important. Being optimistic, having a sense of self-worth and social cohesiveness, having family harmony, having a really strong belief in your own ability in terms of school achievement, having experiences of achievement, whether that's school or otherwise, having economic security, so not feeling like you're at risk of, losing your home or not having enough money to live, having empathy, having a belief in control over your own life circumstances, belonging to a really positive peer group, so it could be friends, family, school friends, etc., leading an active social life, and having a really positive role model. So these are all things that can help protect you against developing a mental disorder. Now, this is a study that you'll find also in your textbook, but it was a study by Howard and Johnson where they did a qualitative study involving 71 interviews with students. So these were students who'd been identified as at risk. So they had 38 students who displayed resilient behaviour in the face of, their adversity, and 33 who displayed non-resilient behaviour. And they then spoke to those students. These were the results that came out of that. Those they identified as being resilient, they really talked a lot about their personal accomplishments and achievements, whereas non-resilient students, they rarely talked about these things. The resilient students then expressed a really strong sense of belonging and connectedness to other individuals or societies and groups. And the non-resilient students, they were less confident about this, or they talked about it less. The resilient students had a strong sense of autonomy and personal agency, so feeling like they have a sense of control over events that are happening in their own lives. Whereas the non-resilient students were more inclined to feel very powerless over events in their life and kind of having a fatalist attitude, things will just happen, I can't really change them. Resilient students then also had definite plans for the future and really positive views for the future as well, so in terms of their own personal future. Whereas the non-resilient students, they had limited or less enthusiastic visions of their own future. So this links in really nicely with our protective factors and helps illustrate that there are a great number of studies that can support these factors as well. Now, something that's not really in the course but is worth mentioning is that while there are protective factors for mental health, there are also risk factors. However, we need to note here that no study has been able to link these factors in terms of causation. So there's some factors that are associated with mental health outcomes, but again, there's no evidence for causation. So it can be things like having poor income or social status, can be a lot to do with your physical environment, how educated you are, where you work, your social environment, so those around you, family, biology, genetics. We know that there is quite a strong genetic factor in a lot of mental health issues. Your personal health practices, your coping skills, physical exercise, opportunities, and access to health services. So I'm not going to go too deeply into those, but I'm sure you can probably work backwards and look at protective factors and perhaps look at what the risk factors might be on the other hand. So let's look at an exam question. From 2016, this in total was worth 4 marks, and it links closely to the 4 levels of explanation. So it says optimism is a protective factor for a healthy mind. Using the basic processes level of explanation, explain how people can become more optimistic. Okay. The next one is using the sociocultural level of explanation, explain how people can become more optimistic. So have a go at these. We will talk a little bit more about the levels of explanation and optimism a little bit later, but it's worth giving it a go given that it ties in terms of the protective factor. All right, have a go and I'll see you in class. Bye.